Good morning, my dear students. Good morning, one and all. Welcome to the third session of the course. The topic name is Establish a Unified Profile for Customers by Setting Up Duplicate Records, Matching Conditions, and Source Fields. Okay, first we need to discuss about the fields to define. In order to create a unified profile, you have to map your data. This sets out which data sets will be used to create the unified customer profile from the ingested sources. There are two main goals of the map base. Number one is a selection of entities, and another one is selection of attributes. So, what about the selection of entities? Figures out which entities can be combined to get more information about your customers. And according to the selection of attributes means identifying which columns to combine so the matching and merging pages can work together because maps are done under the data section in customer insights under the unify page, and initially there will be no data available here, so select get started under source fields to get started the process. The first thing you will have to do this is select the entities and fields you want to use. Your ingested data sources will be listed here, and you will see all the queries that were defined during the ingestion phase under data sources. The query information that goes into a customer profile needs to be selected. A customer profile doesn't have to include all data sources. Various data sources include events and activities related to customers, but don't include data that's needed for a unified profile. For example, during the ingestion phase, you ingested the following data sources. Number one is e-commerce contacts. That means the store's customer profile information for customers who shop on your website. Your loyalty program members profile information is stored in LOY customers. It means loyalty customers. According to the POS purchases means the store's purchases your customers have made from your point of sale system. So you would likely unify the e-commerce contacts and loyalty customers data sources to map up the customer profile since they usually contain customer related information. So due to the fact that the POS system contain purchase information associated with customers, they tend to be used to track purchase related activities associated with those customers as well here. Therefore, that data source doesn't need to be included in customer profiles. And only e-commerce contacts and loyalty customers need to be selected during the mapping phase. If the POS data source contained address information that defined where to ship, the situation could be different here. That's why the POS data source might be useful in the unified customer profile. So to ensure which data you want to ingest and make sure you carefully consider what each data in sources includes, then select to save, which will redirect you to the map screen so you can add more information in the process. So the next one is get to know entities. The list of ingested entities will appear on the left side of the screen. That is an alphabetical list of entities. You will merge the customer profile record when you have completed the match page. So the order doesn't matter here. It's auto selected by default to select the first entity. So select the entity that you want to work with to move between them. So the next one is when we talk about the get hands on with the fields. The name of entity section will display all the attributes of the entity you selected here. For example, if you selected e-commerce contacts, it would show fields in e-commerce contacts. All attribute types can be auto-identified by the system, so it will automatically include them. So select the edit button to select which attributes you want to include. There will be a list of every field available in the data source. The attributes can be found by searching or scrolling. Select the attributes you want to include after you have found them. The select all button lets you add your all attributes to the process. So just select all turns into a clear all button when one attribute is selected here. So you can clear all your selections. During the match phase, you will need to make sure you review which contributes are included for each entity. The next one is we need to discuss about the mapping with intelligence. Mapping is to make sure the right fields are mapped on the unified customer profile from the ingested data source. Even though you can do the mapping by hand, the intelligent mapping feature will be enabled at first. Using intelligent mapping, you can automatically determine the type of data in each column and then map it to attributes in your app. So choosing entities to map automatically turns on intelligent mapping. There is no limit to how many manual mappings you can add. If you turn off intelligent mapping for any reason, all intelligent suggestions will be cleared, but individual field changes will stay. If you want to save time, you will probably keep it on. The next one is when discuss about the decide what the attributes are and select the primary keys. Each entity needs to be prepped before mapping so the applications can be mapped the data more effectively when the merge operations run. Before you can move on the top map page, you have got the make the two selections process. One attribute needs to be designated as the primary key on each entity. It shouldn't have a duplicates, missing values or null values to be a valid primary key. There can only be one primary key field here. So what about the type of attribute? It means specifies how your attributes are categorized, like email address or name. The system will auto identify attribute types when you add an entity. By selecting the type field for the attribute that you want to change and then entering the name you want, you can change or add customers entity types here. So the next one is when we discuss about the setting up duplicate records. Customers can appear than once in a single data sources. A customer with multiple records can make unification harder. So matching routes may not be able to identify the right record. The system should be checked for duplicate records and removed. The duplicate records get merged together by deduplications process. So how to set up the deduplication process? If you define the data source during the source field page, you can define the duplicate record routes. If you have a data source called contacts, because e-commerce, and another called loyalty customers, because loyalty, you can define duplicate routes for each. Select an entity and click the add rule button on the duplicate record page. This is a sample screenshot where I have pasted here. This fields you can just check it out, the source fields and the duplicate records. Add routes to merge the duplicate records you can find here. Okay, the next one is we need to talk about the setting preferences for merging, and identifying duplicate records is the first step, but you will need to decide how to merge them. The data one record might be different from the another data, so each table has edit merge preferences, so you can decide which record to keep. Choose from three options. A winner record is the one with the most populated attribute fields. There is no need to change it here. Most recent means identify the winners based on their most recent wins. To define the recency, you need a date or a number. And the last recent means identify the most recent winner record, requires a date or a number here. So just to select advanced at the bottom of the pan to define merge preferences on individual attributes. Keeping the most recent email and the most complete address from different records is an option. Identify which options to use for each attribute by expanding the entity. Recency based options also requires a date or time field to define the recency mode. This is a sample image where I have pasted here. Advanced merge preferences, you can just check it out, the overview fields, record to keep, and based on fields you can understand. And you can just check it out, the email and address changing process also, recording process also we can check here. So the next one is we need to talk about the set the order of the matches. A match unifies two or more entities into one while maintaining each customer's unique record. The primary entity needs to be defined when you define a match order. The entity you choose as primary is what makes up your unified primary data set. This entity will get any fields selected from other entities during the match phase. It's still not a guarantee that this entity's data will be included in the unified entity. So consider these two things when deciding your primary entity. The process will be on which entity has the most accurate and complete customer data. A number, a name, a phone number, or email address shared by multiple entities, because matching will be better when an entity has more shared attributes. Select your second most reliable entity if it doesn't share attributes. So just to define the order in which the rest of the entities will be evaluated once you know which entity will be your primary, and entity 2, entity 3, etc. also we have to consider, and it would be used to represent these entities. Here's how the match order goes. The number one is a match is made between the primary entity and the secondary entity. And entity 3 is matched with the dataset results from the first match. And match 3 entity means the dataset from match 2 is matched with the entity 4. So each entity is the match order goes through this process. For a better explanation, you just check it out, the e-commerce contacts and loyalty customers inside, using e-commerce contact as the primary and the loyalty customers as the secondary, because the loyalty customers would be matched with the e-commerce contacts. You will match e-commerce contacts or loyalty customers against the third entity if you add one here. So using the same question you used for entity 1, you can use them for entity 2. So identify the entity with the second most reliable and complete data. Also, just to find out if the second entity has a field that's shared by the primary entity as well as fields shared by other ingested entities here. So you can understand everything from the match order goes here. Okay, my dear students, I hope you have enjoyed the third session of the topic. Establish a unified profile for customers by setting up duplicate records, matching conditions, and source fields. Thank you once again, and thank you all.